Obsession is proudly supported by Carly and Draggy. Check out the video description to find out the latest discount codes. Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another walk around. If you are new to my channel, firstly, thank you for joining me. My name is Aaron, and secondly, my walk around videos are pretty much a static review of the car. Therefore, if you're looking for driving content, that won't come in this video, but will come in other videos. Now, before I get going, a bit of housekeeping. Apologies for the shades. A, it's very sunny, and B, my hay fever is quite bad today. I'm trying to stop pollen getting into my eyes. Now, because my hay fever is quite bad today, I am bunged up, so I may be a little bit mumbly or incoherent, and I've also got a mouth ulcer as well. So yeah, if I'm a little bit hard to understand at points, I can only apologise in advance. Anyway, that aside, on to this week's car, which is the brand new second generation Kia Niro. As always, I will take you around the car, talk you through the specification and give you my first impressions. So, like the old Niro, this is available as a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, or of course a full-on EV. I have the hybrid, which has a starting price of a little under £29,000 and is available in 3 trim levels, 2, 3 and 4. I have the mid-range 3 in front of me, which would normally have a price of £31,545, but as an option I have the steel grey paintwork, which is £595. Now if you go for the range topping 4, if you go for the range topping 4, that has a starting price a little over £34,000. Now the colour is the only thing optional, the rest of what you see comes as standard. Now before I get onto the specification, I want to talk about the outside styling because it is quite striking, isn't it? I think for some it will be divisive. Me, I like it. I think it looks pretty smart and pretty cutting edge. I'm not overly sure on the rear, if I'm going to be honest, but I think as an overall package it is a smart looking car. At the rear you've got the boomerang shape LED rear lights. You've also got these C-pillars, which if I get the right angle, you will see allow airflow through them. This helps with aerodynamics, and as a result this has a drag coefficient of 0.29. So yes, very aerodynamic indeed. You've got the gloss black detailing to help contrast the steel grey paintwork, 18-inch alloys, which I think look really, really smart. Now at the front you have these heartbeat shape LED daytime running lights, and of course you've got LED headlights as well. I think overall, yes, it is a smart looking car, and in white it kind of reminds me of a Stormtrooper. The default colour for this car is runway red, which is of course a no cost paintwork. The rest of them you do need to pay for them. I believe all of the premium paint choices are the same price, £595, but I may need to correct myself with a subtitle. Now I have tried to remember as much information as I can for this car, so if I get one or two things wrong, do bear with me. Now on to the specification. So yes, as I've mentioned, LED headlights, 18-inch alloys, you get keyless entry and keyless start, tinted rear windows, you get front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera, you get black roof rails. If I take you inside the car, actually I'm going to come back to the inside of the car because I want to speak through the boot with you. But yes, going back to the specification, get heated front seats, heated steering wheel, electronically adjustable front seat for the driver, 10.25 inch touchscreen, you get a digital display, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, navigation, reversing camera, which I think I may have already mentioned, as well as a shed load of safety kit. This car is as safe as houses, maybe safer than houses, who knows. But yes, onto the boot. Now you don't get a power tailgate for the 3, so you have to use manual labour, but to be fair, it opens very easily, so no complaints there. Now, because the battery has been relocated from this area, the offside rear wheel arch, and has now been put along with the main hybrid battery under the rear seats, you get 15 extra litres in which to play with for the boot. So as a total, you get 451 litres with the rear seats up. But if you want more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,445 litres. Some of you may have spotted this rather flimsy looking parcel shelf, which is very similar to the one fitted to the Ford Puma. Now of course you can't really put anything on top of it because it won't support the weight, but the idea is that it will mould around bigger chunkier items in the boot. And if you don't want to use this, this will be very easy to store because, well, it's as thin as paper. So yes, quite clever. Yeah, albeit a bit flimsy and cheap, but I get the idea and I do respect it. Now, as standard, on 2, 3, well, all the trim levels, you do get a height adjustable boot floor. As you can see, the boot is filled with my filming crap, but we'll cut to a clip where the boot is emptier. Now, if you go for the plug-in hybrid, the boot space falls down to, I believe, 348 litres because the plug-in hybrid system, most of it goes underneath the boot floor, so that's why you have to pay a penalty. Now, interestingly, the full-on EV actually has the biggest boot. That has 475 litres because the batteries for the EV, they're underneath the, well, they're pretty much on the car floor. So yeah, you actually get the biggest boot in the EV, which may come as a surprise to some of you. Anything else to speak about in the boot? Nothing that I can think of. Let's close it down like so. Let me take you onto the rear. I can talk through rear space with you. I'll take you off my little tripod so I've got better manoeuvrability with my camera. He says, oh, there we go, that's a bit stiff. Now, as always, the driver's seat is set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am, of course, a taller chap. But as you can hopefully see with the right lighting, there we go. I've got plenty of space in which to step into. So let me do that. I will leave the door open because it is rather hot in the UK today. So as you can see, I've got plenty of knee room and I've got plenty of leg room as well. And I can fit my feet underneath the driver's seat, even though it is set to its lowest. If I bring you down here, you can see the leg room. I will need to close the door though for better lighting. As you can see, look at that, loads to play with. So yeah, very, very impressive. Headroom is also pretty ample, even for someone of my height. So as you can see, that I've got plenty of space. If you are a taller passenger, fear not, the back of the Kia Niro will be a nice place to be. Now, could you fit 3 adults in the rear? No, I think it would be a bit too tight. 2 adults will be just fine, of course, and possibly 3 children. I will show you the ISOFIX points in a few moments, but before I melt into a fleshy puddle, oh my God, that's so much better. Yeah, very hot in the UK. It's about 23 degrees Celsius, and I don't know, it's probably hotter than that now, and it isn't even midday yet. So yes, hot, although if you're watching this in America or Australia, you probably think I'm a big pansy, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, weather aside, let's move into practicality. The door bins are of a decent size. You can fit in a 500 milliliter bottle. In fact, I have a 500 milliliter bottle at my disposal. Pop it in like so, fits in like a glove. You have these somewhat airplane style pockets in the back of the front seats. Pop some magazines in there, or an A to Z if you're that way inclined, if you're a bit old school. Although it's been a long time since I've seen an A to Z in a vehicle. But anyway, moving on. You get ventilation for the rear, which on a day like today is a godsend. You've got a power outlet down there as well. Now, before I forget to mention it, if you do have to have a passenger in the middle, they will need to navigate a bit of a hump in the floor. So that's worth bearing in mind. You've got have an armrest in the middle for added comfort, and as you can see, you've got 2 cup holders in there as well. You don't get a feed-through hatch, so if you want to load longer items such as skis or perhaps bits of wood, you can't do that in this car, which may be a bit of a disappointment to some, but would I have expected it? Probably not, given the type of vehicle it is, but hey, some of you may disagree. Oh yes, the ISOFIX points. So they will be a bit of a faff to get to, and the lighting isn't helping me somewhat, but yeah, they're just here where my index finger is, so they're kind of buried in there a little bit. They're not too difficult to find, but yeah, when you're juggling an ISOFIX base and trying to get it in, and yeah, you might have the kids screaming at you, or just play fighting, whatever. Yeah, that may be a little bit of a frustration, but once the base is in, of course, yeah, it's all pretty much done. You have charging ports in the side of the front seats, Type C charging ports, like you do get in the Sportage, and I think the Sorento had the same thing. And like the Sportage, you get these somewhat quirky, interesting coat hangers in the front seats, well, on the back of the front seats, and you get a kind of, I would say, somewhat clunky, ugly looking headrest. To be fair, the headrest itself is quite comfortable, but it just looks a bit gawky. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of it. But anyway, let me move myself out of the rear and deposit myself into the front. Whew. Beautiful day. have to get the sun cream on soon. So for the driver's seat, you do get electronic adjustability, but you don't get a memory function, which I'm finding is becoming a common theme in modern cars. I'm not too sure whether the shortage of microchips is playing a part in that, or just car manufacturers are just being stingy. Now, you may look at this and think, oh, nice leather. This isn't leather. In fact, all of the materials for the interior, so for the seats, the door cards and whatnot, and the dash, they're all made using sustainable materials. In fact, one of the materials for the front seats is actually made using eucalyptus leaves. So if you ever have a koala as a passenger, they might want to eat the seat. So bear that in mind. Koala, bear that in mind. See what I did there? Koala. Come on, that was off the cuff. Who doesn't like a dad joke? Yes, again, this isn't real leather. It does a convincing job of looking like leather, but when you feel it, it has got a bit of a rough grain to it. It's not quite as smooth as cowhide, but is it a deal breaker? No, far from it. I'm just being a bit picky. Let me make my way into the car. Once more, I will leave the door open so I don't melt. Another interesting pub fact for you, the roof lining is made using recycled wallpaper. There we go. Nice little pub fact for you. So if you own a Niro, you can tell it to your mates at the pub. I must confess, it'd have to be a pretty boring topic of conversation to lead to that, but hey, you never know. You get a digital driver's display, which I will turn on like so, and you get a 10.25 inch touchscreen. Now it's worth bearing in mind that if you just realise my phone is not on airplane mode. Amateur. Put your phone in airplane mode. Right, pop it into the wireless phone charging pad down there. Well, I say pop it, more like drop it in there. If you go for the base model 2, you get a smaller touchscreen, which from memory is 8 inches. So that is worth bearing in mind. Just turn my phone off. There we go. Now, I quite like this little control panel down here because, as you can see, it gives you shortcuts for the touchscreen. But hit that, and all of a sudden, look, you've got the controls for the climate control. Now, they are touch sensitive, which I would prefer physical buttons, but I think this is a good compromise between physical buttons and having it buried in the touchscreen, which I personally hate. There we go, 25 degrees. So yeah, it's starting to get hotter, of course. Heated front seats, talking of hotting things up. Yeah, heated front seats, heated steering wheel, as I've mentioned, but not needed on a day like today. Front and rear parking sensors and your camera. Actually, let me show you the reversing camera. So there we go, and you've got the front and rear parking sensors, of course. So if you go for the base model 2, you don't get this rotary dial. This is only reserved for the 3 and 4 trim levels. So yeah, the 2 trim level, the inside isn't quite as nice, if I'm going to be honest. The inside is a nice place to be. That's a very, very cliche thing to say, and it's a phrase I often use, but it is. In regards to practicality, as you can see, you can just about fit a 1.5 litre bottle in the door bin, but yeah, as you can see, it's a bit wedged in, and you will need to persuade it somewhat. You have 2 cup holders in the middle, which have this rather snazzy system. So you pop those away like so, and then you get your cups, and these kind of wrap around and hold them in place. Oh, that one actually catapulted it. That's a new feature. And there we go. You can't really see it because the lighting is quite poor. Apologies. There's not really any shaded areas in here today. Well, there were, but obviously the sun's moved. Wireless final charger pad, as I've mentioned. Got Type-C USB port, old school USB port, and a very old school 12 volt socket. I must confess, I don't know the last time I used a 12 volt socket. You've got more storage next to the cup holders as well as underneath the armrest. You can actually take out this partition if you want to have a more larger free flowing area, but if you want to have items in here that you don't want rolling about, then keep that in place. And of course you get a glove box which offers a fair size. Getting a good comfortable driving setup is very easy. The steering wheel has got plenty of adjustment, although I'm not too sure of the design of the steering wheel, of kind of, well, I was going to say 2-spoke design, but I suppose it's just 1 spoke, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not sure on that, but that's merely subjective. I was about to mention something. Oh yes, you do get a choice of driving modes, but you only get 2. You have Eco and you have Sport. I would argue the sports mode is somewhat redundant because this car isn't really dynamic in the slightest. It is a pleasant car to drive, it's comfortable, but dynamic, no, this is not. So I would argue the sport mode in this is, yeah, it's just pointless. It's just, why would you do that? Let's turn off the engine. Now, of course, with this being a hybrid, you can drive it in EV up to short, EV only for up to short distances. But if you want a Niro that can drive longer on EV only, get the plug-in hybrid, in which you can do EV only for up to 40 miles, or of course the full-on EV, which has a range of I think 295 miles. I'm doing all of this from memory, so you will need to bear with me, guys. Now, onto the engine. So whether you go for the hybrid or the plug-in hybrid, you get the same 1.6 litre naturally aspirated petrol. So for the Niro Hybrid, I should say, you have a 32 kilowatt electric motor. I forgot to mention the battery for this is 1.32 kilowatt hours, although I have read elsewhere that is 1.56 kilowatt hours. So yeah, I will be honest, some of the information that I've had for this car, some of which has been from Kia, has been conflicting. There's been one thing from Kia that says one thing and then another documentation that says another figure. So yeah, there may be one or two things that are incorrect, so you'll need to bear with me. In regards to power, this has 141 horsepower along with 265 Newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, I will of course drop a subtitle below. I'm sure many of you aren't too fussed, but this will hit 62 miles per hour in a somewhat pedestrian 10.8 seconds. The top speed is 100 miles per hour, but if you're driving this on EV only, then the top speed is 74 miles per hour. In regards to fuel economy, on a combined run, you can get up to 61.4 mpg, and CO2 emissions are 105 grams per kilometre. In my experience, well, on my drive here, which is mostly A roads, and of course I had the aircon on, I got around 49 mpg. I drove this around town the other day with minimal traffic, and believe it or not, thanks to the EV only mode, which kicks in every now and then, I got low 70s mpg. So yeah, very, very good. This has a mode called, I may get the marketing name wrong, but green zone drive mode. And you may think, what's that? In essence, the car can use driving patterns that you know, from journeys you've made, as well as use information from the sat nav. And for example, when you're going past schools or hospitals, it will go into EV only mode where possible to help cut down emissions. You can also manually input your own green zones. So for example, if you want, when you're driving around your own neighbourhood and you want to try and emit as little emissions as possible, you can manually input destinations or locations where you want the green zone drive mode to kick in. Like I say, I may have got the name of that that mode a little bit wrong. If you're looking at this car as a fleet purchase, if you go for the EV, you have a BIK rating of just 2%. For the plug-in hybrid, it's 8%. And if you go for this, I believe it is 26%. In regards to insurance groups, if you go for this version of the Niro Hybrid, I believe it's 21. And what about those of you wanting to get the car on finance? So on a 3-year PCP deal, with a deposit of £5,000 with a contribution of £1,000, APR of 7.9%. Per month, you're looking at around £470. Now, I'm quite impressed that I was able to remember all of that. So yeah, I'm just going to give myself a pat on the back. Right, fuel economy, tick. Oh, first year VED rating, I forgot to mention that. So for the first year VED, you'll be paying £175. And I think that's pretty much everything to go through on the Niro. Give you some other little tidbits, some pub facts. 55% of Niros sold are electrified. 43% of all Kias sold are electrified. This is based on UK sales, by the way. The Niro is the second best-selling Kia in the UK and the third best-selling Kia in Europe. There we go. Some nice little trivia to end the video with. So give it one more walk around, let you guys drink in the Niro Hybrid. Let me know what you think of the styling. I think it's quite Marmite. I think you'll either love it or hate it. I love it, actually, to be honest. Yeah, it looks pretty smart in the steel grey with the contrasting black detailing. Yeah, smart car. I think it's I think it looks futuristic without trying too hard, but some of you may disagree with that statement. Oh, whew, right, I need a drink. I would quite like a nice cold beer, but I'll have to wait until I get home for that, of course. Don't drink and drive, kids. Dangerous, stupid. So, yes, there will of course be a review coming and possibly a point of view review as well. But yes, until then, if you have any questions on the car, please do let me know. Just bear in mind that by the time that this video goes up, the car would have gone back to Kia. So there will be certain questions I can't answer. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this video, I found it useful, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.